All right. Welcome, everybody. Mike and Janelle Friedrich here with Marriage Ignite. Hope you all are having a great day, good morning, or evening, whenever you might be watching this. You might be watching the recording, but we have a really strong message that we're going to bring to you. Are we ready?
We're ready.
Are you ready? Hope you are, because the title of it was "This Might Offend You," and it probably one of these might, but the truth is we're coming to you from love. And one of the things that we've known is that we're never going to shrink back from our identity in order to make people feel comfortable. It's the worst way that you can serve the world. And we're in the marriage business. Our tagline is we ignite the passion, peace, and connection back into marriages, but it's much more than that. Like, we know that this is a mandate on our lives. And so we want to talk about three things that, when we talk to a lot of women every week, and we talk to a lot of couples every week. And one of the things that we have seen over and over and over, and we hear over and over and over, is that women and couples, they wait a long time to get help because they keep thinking to themselves, you know what, it's just going to get better. Like, it can't keep, like, something's going to change.
Can I share something real quick?
Yeah.
Well, and also I posted up a couple posts on social media within the last few weeks that were posts that were a little bit like that, a little bit of that gut check, like, ooh. And I ended up getting a lot of messages and a lot of private messages from people that are just living in this quiet desperation, literally this quiet desperation. And so we're going to jump right in. We have 3 points. And I really want you to, as you're listening right now, is this you? Is this you? Is this something that's going on maybe in your marriage? Or maybe is it for someone that you know? Is it someone that you know that you've been talking to that really needs help in their marriage and they don't know where to turn?
All right.
Okay, so
that's good, babe.
Number one.
First one is, the longer you wait, it'll continue to get worse. And, the other day I was talking to a lady, and I was asking her how long this had been going on with what she had been dealing with. And she said 29 years. And I said, okay, well, how long have you been married? And she said 29 years. And I'm like, okay. So here's the thing, is that if you don't take action today, if you're at this place where you're waking up every morning, you're going to bed every night with this feeling of you're sad, you're frustrated, you keep wondering to yourself, is this as good as it's going to get? Like, you've been at marriage for 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 years or longer, and you're at this place where you're just really frustrated. You're like, this cannot be it. And you're finally at that place now where you have to do something. Everyone has a breaking point, because here's the thing is, you're either going to pay for it either way. You're going to pay for it in the form of emotional suffering for another 5 to 20 years, or you're going to invest in your marriage and actually do something to change the direction of your legacy. I mean, I want you to think about this. People will spend tens of thousands of dollars on their wedding, but they won't think about investing like half of that towards the rest of their life in their marriage, which is kind of crazy.
When what we see is we will follow up with people. So we'll do a phone call with a couple, or we'll do a phone call with a woman, and we'll follow up with them 3 months later or 6 months later. And we find that things have gotten even worse. Like, literally, they're at a place where they're basically roommates, or every time that they try to have a conversation, they get in a huge fight. And when they do get in the fight, they just kind of sweep things under the rug, and they're literally going in these vicious cycles where they get to a point where they actually don't even really like each other anymore. And it's gotten to the point where it's so bad. And, when Mike and I were talking about this before we hopped on, if you look at a really good football player, okay, or even a really good golf player.
Well, hold on, let me use this example, because we actually know, we have a friend of ours, and he helps golfers, not professional golfers, but people that are good, but they're not professional. People will spend $10,000 for his services to help them drop 10 strokes off of their game, 10 grand.
Wow.
Just because they want to become a better golfer. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Like, I love golf. If you've got the money and you can do it, great. But what is going to have a greater long-term impact on your legacy? Golf or your marriage?
Your marriage.
And I'll put marriage up against anything, next to your relationship with the Lord. Next to anything, there's nothing more important. I mean, I'm speaking to the choir here, you know that, right? Yeah. But I want you to think about that for a second. Sometimes we don't think about some of the things that we're spending money on. Maybe we'll think about it, but we're like, oh, I've got to have it. I've got to have this next toy. I've got to get this camper. I've got to get whatever's important to you. I'm not saying any of that's wrong. I'm just having you consider where you're investing, not just your money, but your time.
Well, and like Mike said, God is your most important relationship, right? That's the most important thing. And then it's your marriage. And it's like, how often do we not want to work on it? We don't, we don't want to spend the money on it. We don't want to take the time. We get too busy, all the things. So when I was starting a business a long time ago, we've owned a lot of businesses. I went, before we bought this business, I went to a year of training, literally a year of training on how to start this business. And then when I started the business, I literally had to get massive mentoring and training because I didn't know how to start a business, right? So you guys, I think you guys get our point that if you don't do something, then things are going to get worse. And why is it that we're so hesitant on spending money on our marriage or spending time on our marriage, but yet we'll start a business, we'll hire a coach when it comes to sports, we'll go and do all these other things, but yet we're not wanting to do anything when it comes to marriage.
Because change is hard. Which brings us to point number 2.
Point number 2 is we hear people say all the time that they would die for their children, but would you actually change for them?
Ouch.
Ouch. That one is where I heard that many years ago. And it was like, it wasn't, I literally caught it. Like, it wasn't just taught to us, but like I caught that and went, whoa. People say it all the time that they'll die for their children, but they won't change for them, right? They won't actually do the work to change, to realize that this is going to affect generations. It's going to affect the generation that your kids, and then your grandkids, your great grandkids. And I know because many of you guys that are listening right now, you've probably been through a divorce, right? Most people that we talk to, their parents they had been divorced or been divorced multiple times. And so you maybe didn't see a very good upbringing when it came to that. I know that we didn't. I know that at first we were like, we're not going to get married. We were just going to end up in divorce. We're going to end up like everyone else, but we knew that in 2005, when I fell to my knees and I was like, I need some help. We can't live like this anymore, because we were arguing a lot and we were working all of the time. We never saw each other. We never spent time together. And it was literally, it felt like Groundhog Day. And I was like, we need help. And it was me who was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get help. Thank God that he ended up hopping on board too. And we ended up going on this journey of really learning what it was, what it meant to be married, but also how to do it God's way. Because when we try to do things our way, remember, his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. His ways are higher than our ways. And so when we try to do things our way and we find that we're going around the same mountain again, we're having the same conversations with our husband over and over, the same arguments over and over and over again. And it's like this crazy cycle that you're on and you can't seem to get off. It's like, why don't we stop and go, whoa, okay, but you know what? Something needs to change. And I don't know how to get myself out of this. And I'm not only going to do it for God, but I'm going to do it for you, my husband, and I'm going to do it for my children and everybody else. Because when you start to work on your marriage, in the Bible, it says when there's unity, there's commanded blessing. So when you start to work on your marriage, which is so sacred to God, when you start working on your marriage, man, I'm telling you, there is blessings. It doesn't mean that bad things aren't going to happen and that you're not going to have trials and things like that. It has nothing to do with things like that are going to happen. But when you start to work on this and there's unity, and there's the love and the peace and the joy and the connection that's back in the home, I'm telling you, man, the devil has no foothold at all. But right now, if you have any cracks in your foundation, then here, I want to say one more thing. It is a fantasy if you think that your children aren't being affected by it. And I had someone say to me the other day, she's like, well, we don't argue in front of the kids. And I said, I don't care. You ignore each other for 3 or 4 days. Do you not think that the kids can feel that? They feel your energy. They feel everything. So if you're not getting along with your husband or you're not getting along with your wife, your kids are going to feel it. If they're 7 months old, if they're 5 years old, if they're 15 years old, 18, it doesn't matter. Even if they're not in the home, they feel it when they're on the phone with you. It's a fantasy and it's a lie that you're living if you think that your kids are not being affected by this, and they are. But you know what? The beautiful thing is that you can turn it around, and you can turn it around quickly, really quickly. We've seen it. We've seen it happen where literally you can transform the home within a day, within hours, literally, by you might need help. And that's why we're here, because we want to help people who actually want to do the work, who actually want help, which leads me to
Well, hold on,
number
let me finish.
3. Oh, okay.
There's one other thing. I was talking to a gal yesterday, and she had a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. And so we got to this discussion about, her children and what her children are going through. They started to act out, and that's where she broke, because it was in that moment where she realized that she's only got 8 more years left with the 10-year-old and 10 more years left with the 8-year-old. And that might sound like a lot of time, but any of you that do have children or have had children that have now moved out, that time goes by just like that. And so what I just want to plead to you is, that you're living on borrowed time right now with your kids. You've got a very short window of opportunity. And if you have gone through, again, there's no shame here. Like, none of us are going to get through parenthood without looking back on some things that we dorked up on. Like, I know there's a lot of things already. There's many times where I go to bed at night and I'm thinking, man, like, I was not at my best. Like, and I know that in those moments, there's that feeling as a parent that you just like, gosh, man, I was not at my best today. Like, today I would love to do a redo, but I don't get that opportunity. Like, that day's gone. And the older that you kids are getting, the quicker the time is going to go by.
And we may not have parenting all figured out, and we may not always do it right perfectly, and we don't always do marriage perfectly, but our kids know how much we love each other. Our kids know we are on the same page. We believe the same thing. We have the same vision on what we want and where we're going. We can communicate and work through conflict, and we do it in front of them. We apologize to each other. We apologize to them. And it's like, they know that they have a safe place and that they feel safe and secure in their home. So again, if you're someone that's like, you might think, yeah, I would die for my children, but will you change for them? Will you change for them? Okay. Which leads us to number 3, because this one's a very big one. Because if you're thinking, yeah, I would die for them, and yeah, I would change for them. Well, number 3 is, it's not a sign of weakness seeking help. It's wisdom. I mean, it actually says in Proverbs that you should have a board of counsels. Mike and I have a board of counsels. We actually have marriage coaches that we have that help us. We have to do what we do, and to make sure that we have the protection, and to make sure that we've got our armor of God on, and make sure that we're doing this thing, right?
Well, let's be real.
So
I need more help than you do.
But listen, okay, so I talked to a woman this morning, and hopefully she'll watch this. But I talked to her this morning, and they're not married yet. They just got engaged in December. And she saw some red flags, and she's reaching out for help. And man, when I was on the phone with her, I was like, this is so amazing. There is so much wisdom in what she's doing right now by reaching out for help before they even got married. She's like, we need to get this stuff figured out now. And because you know what? We're not taught how to be married. We're not, and you can read all the books in the world. Like, books are awesome. You can go to conferences, all of it. I love it. Right? We have read so many marriage books. We've lost count on how many marriage books. But you know what book that I need to read? Not only the Bible, but I need to read his book. I need to read my husband's book. I'll grab a hold of that, because that is my job for the rest of my life, is to discover him and to embrace him and to love him. And he is the book that I'm going to read for the rest of my life. How do you do that? How do you do it? And how do you do it God's way, right? It is wisdom to reach out for help. Just like if you were to build a business, just like if you were to, be a professional football player, or just like you wanted to learn how to play music, or you want to learn how to play the piano, you get help, right? It's like with anything that you want to learn how to do, we need to learn how to be married. People have no idea how to be married. They don't have any idea how to communicate. They don't know how to fulfill each other's needs. They don't know how to embrace each other's differences, because you know what? We're different. And I remember I would get so mad at him because I wanted him to be like me. I wanted him to act like me. I wanted him to talk like me. And I couldn't figure out why he would do things the way that he did things. And it made me frustrated. I was frustrated. And then I was like, why does he always want to hang out with his friends all the time? Why does he want to hang out with his friends more than he wants to hang out with me? Because I was mean. and I wasn't a joy to be around.
Well, then it just added to that perpetual cycle of like, okay, I don't want to be mothered. So what am I going to do? I'm going to retreat. I'm going to go over here. You just get more mad. You get more frustrated. And then you start talking to me in a bigger, worse tone, and around we go. And so here's the thing. We are not taught how to be married. Hopefully you had, maybe several premarital counseling sessions. We didn't. I mean, we didn't have any of that.
Well, we didn't have marriage, like our parents weren't married to show us, like we didn't have any of that. Most people don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, even when you're a kid, you just kind of, it's like you said, it's more caught than taught. So you're, as a kid, a lot of times you're just like, oh, they're just my parents. And you don't realize it till you're later. And you start kind of acting out just things that you saw in your parents for better or for worse. But most of the time we pick up on the things that aren't serving our marriage. And so that's what we want to leave you with, and especially we want to encourage you. If you're a wife and you're watching this and you're like, you know what, this sounds great. Like I'm all in. I know that I need help, but my husband, no way. Maybe you had a bad experience. You tried to go to counseling and he just felt the shame. He felt like he was cornered in and he's like, no way am I doing that again. And so now what are you going to do? I guess you're just going to stop. You're just going to, well, if he doesn't want to get help, I'm just going to continue to read books or something. Again, all of that's good. But here's what I want to encourage you. If you're a wife and you're watching this, like, don't pretend like this is just going to work itself out. Don't pretend like your husband is just all of a sudden going to change one day. He might. It's possible. God can do anything. He's a sovereign Lord. He can, he can shoot a lightning bolt down to your husband. He can change him if he wants to. But you and I both know that's not usually how it works. God doesn't normally show up in the form of a burning bush like Moses did. If he does, then hallelujah. That's awesome. But most of the time he doesn't. He's going to work through people that are going to speak life into you and show you how to live a life where it's a God-honoring marriage, where you guys know how to meet each other's needs, where you guys know how to communicate and serve one another for the rest of your life. Because let's face it, our kids are a temporary assignment. Your marriage is forever. So you need to look at me when I'm saying this. You need to do everything and anything that you can and fight for your marriage like your life depends on it, because guess what? It does. Everything is counting on you guys working this out so that you guys can live the life that God wants for you. Anything
yes.
else?
So if any of this literally is resonating with you and in your heart and you're going, oh my gosh, what they said, wow, they just said that, they just said this, that's me. Oh, that's me. Whoa. Okay. Don't wait any longer. Send us a private message. We'll also post our link down below, but we would love to have a conversation with you and just see. Who knows if we'll be a good fit for each other. We don't know. You don't know and we don't know. But just know that don't waste another day and reach out, because right now your life depends upon it. Really, you want to do it for God. You want to do it for you. You want to do it for your spouse. You want to do it for your children. You want to do it for your work, for your health. I talked to a lady that it's affecting her health. Like she is having so many health issues and she's gained weight. I mean, it's like it affects every area when things are not right between each other. So make sure that you reach out and we're here to help you. So thank you so much and God bless.
God bless everybody. Bye.